Hello everyone, my name is Stephanie Eldred and I'm with the Center for Best Practices. Thank you for joining us today for the Amplifying Impact Through Summer Meals Marketing and Outreach webinar. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items. First, attendees are in listen-only mode and we will be recording this webinar today. We will take questions at the end of the webinar. Please use the question box for your questions and we will read them out loud or respond to them individually. The webinar recording and resource links will be sent later this week. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my colleague Derek Lambert to start the webinar.
Thanks so much, Stephanie, and thanks to everybody who has tuned in for the 5th installment of our 6-part series of the Schools Out, Foods In Summer Meals webinar series. And again, as always, would like to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Arby's Foundation, that makes all of this work possible. Thank you to the Arby's for supporting this work and as a result, the work of all of us here in the summer meals space. Want to also give a welcome to our panelists. Today we are joined by Meredith Brandt, Manager, Federal Advocacy and Public Affairs for Share Our Strength No Kid Hungry campaign. And on the phone we have Sarah Steele, Outreach Associate for No Kid Hungry Virginia. I'll introduce Sarah more fully when she speaks a little later, but right now I'd like to introduce Meredith. Meredith is, she manages media and public affairs communications at No Kid Hungry. She leads strategies for federal policies that impact childhood hunger. Meredith is passionate about giving a voice to people who don't always have a chance to speak for themselves. Meredith graduated from Shippensburg University and earned her Master's in International Peace and Conflict Resolution from American University School for International Service. So Meredith, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Derek. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you on as a featured panelist. So let's dive right into our agenda today. We're going to look at 4 main areas. Number 1, we're going to start by looking at the importance of program marketing and why it's so vital to our efforts to support summer meals programming. Number 2, we're going to look at some key steps to develop your marketing strategy. We're then going to hear from a marketing case study from Sarah and the team at No Kid Hungry Virginia and the work they've been doing on the ground to implement both planning, strategy, and implementation by effective tactics with program outreach. And number 4, we'll have resources to support marketing and outreach, and very excited to roll out some new and fresh resources for our network today that they can use in their planning beginning this summer. So looking at the first point, we want to talk about the importance of program marketing. Based on a 2013 survey of low-income parents that Share Our Strength commissioned among a representative sample of families, we know that awareness of summer meal programs is low amongst program families. Of those we spoke with, about 17% participated or their children participated in programming, but really only about twice that, 40% of families reported even being aware of locations for summer meals. Only 1 in 4 families that know about the program had chosen to participate in the past. So we know that there's an awareness issue in making these programs accessible. At the same time, low-income families are very interested in summer meal programs. 68% expressed interest in the program, especially those that had otherwise demonstrated a need for food assistance in the summertime. Of those that have participated in the program in the past, we know that there was a really high level of satisfaction. 9 out of 10 would recommend attending the site to others, and the same number were interested in using the program again. So, we can't control for all of these variables, but one clear way that we can make it more likely for children to participate in existing meal programs is to get the word out. Make sure that people know about summer meals and they know when and where they're available. So Meredith, I'm hoping that, looking at our next slide, you can walk us through some of the opportunities and the pitfalls for summer meals sponsors and advocates who are trying to think about their strategy for summer meals outreach.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much. And thanks for everybody for calling in and being a part of this. We know that everyone's been really hard at work putting together a strategy to make sure kids in your community are able to get the nutrition they need while school's out of session. So as you do this, we want to provide as much help as possible so that no one has to start anything from scratch. And our goal with all of this is really just to help you build your capacity. At the same time, we know that not all outreach and marketing efforts are equally effective. And so as you develop your own program marketing plan, it's really helpful to consider both the opportunities and the potential pitfalls of your efforts. Sometimes marketing can come as an afterthought, but really marketing itself is a tool that drives the work. And there are 3 goals of program marketing. One is to drive the participation levels. The second is to streamline information that we're all sharing so that it's more usable. And third, to create momentum for this work and other work that's happening to feed kids. And the reason why we do all of this messaging is because sometimes people don't know enough, and then sometimes there's just way too much information out there. So the more we can streamline, the better. And our number one goal of messaging is to make it repeatable. It's the one way that you're sure to get your message across. And so building a strategic plan. A successful strategic communications campaign gets the right people to take the right action at the right time. You want the right constituents to call the right senator on the day a vote's taking place. You want the right parents to go to the right meal site for a summer kickoff event. Knowing that you're getting the right people to take the right action at the right time will lead to smarter decisions around capacity, budget, and activities. And the most important word on this next slide about building your strategic plan is goal. If I could make this flash, if I could make this light up in any way, I would. In my experience, the one way to tell a sophisticated communication shop versus a rookie one is if their strategy is driving their tactics, not the other way around. Your goal and your audience will help you make those important decisions around the tactic and budget. So some questions to ask yourself. At the most basic level, what are you trying to accomplish this summer? What's the actual problem that you're trying to solve? Who's the right person who will say yes or no to your objective?
That's great, Meredith. Thank you so much. And it's really great you're talking about how we think about what is our plan before we dive right into what our specific actions are going to be. And so, as we're thinking about the importance of program marketing, we're now going to dive right into the key steps that are a part of really the part and parcel of what Meredith just talked about, developing an effective marketing strategy. And Meredith, I know that, we looked at this together before the webinar, and you said, goal really needs to be right there at the beginning of things, but then there are some steps that grow out from that. Can we review those together?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we are developing a resource for everyone that really walks you through how to develop a communication strategy. We're calling it our summer playbook. So more on that a little bit later. But really, you need to start thinking about who is your audience, what do you want them to say, and how are you going to do that in order to achieve your goal. All of that, identifying your audience, creating your message, choosing your tactics, really drives back to your goal.
That's great. Thanks so much. So we're going to walk through this process, folks, one step at a time, and then we're going to hear from our partner in the field about how she and her team have been translating these ideas into action. And so, Meredith, we're just going to dive in with talking about our target audience. And I'd love to get your thoughts about, what that involves.
Yeah. So the first step in developing your strategy is to do just that, identify your target audience. Your audience can be one of two different groups of people. One are the people making the decision, the people saying yes or no to you. Those are your decision makers. And then there are also the people who could influence those decision makers. They're the people that the decision makers respect and listen to. I want to make it clear, though, that the general public is never a target audience. The media is never a target audience. In fact, the media is actually a tactic to get to your target audience. So I think that's really important to underscore here.
So I'm not trying to get my message out to the media. I want the media to help me amplify that message.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. So looking at this slide, there are a few different things we have to define here. We need to define the goal of our work. If we're thinking about program outreach and strategy at our most basic level, what is the purpose of those efforts? What is it that we're trying to accomplish through program outreach that can't be accomplished through some other means? And really, it's important to get as specific as possible. What part of your programming outreach strategy needs to happen for this summer's operation, the meal program itself, to be a win? We're going to look at an example here in a minute. We have to define the problem. What is the problem that we're trying to solve that is a threat to the success of our program? Is this a problem that is going to be solved by communication? Is it additional outreach or media attention? Or is it some other means? Because if it actually is going to be solved by something other than communication, then we need to be aware of that. It's a different conversation. And then defining decision makers. Who is the right person who can actually help us achieve our goal? And who has the power to say yes or no to achieve the goals we've defined? So rather than simply talking about this, looking at those things and how it pulls down into the target audience, we're just going to look at an example. And so, Meredith, I was thinking we could try to, think about what this looks like and feels like. And I see, we've got a few different slides here, and actually, you know what, I'll look through it myself. We're going to look at the Green Acres example. So we're going to look at, the parents with young children and community leaders. That's a target audience, perhaps, but we have to think about a few things first before we get to that point. What is the goal? What are the problems? And what are the decision makers? And Meredith, I'm just going to run through this, and you let me know if this makes sense.
Sure.
If I am working as a sponsor and I have, a housing site, we'll call it Green Acres, that had weak participation last year, then my goal, if I'm working with that site, is to get more kids to come out to the site. That's what all of this is about, is increasing participation. Sure. The problem, based on what I've heard from some families, based on what I've heard from the property managers, is that a lot of families didn't know the program even ran last year. And they didn't know how to participate. They weren't sure who operated the program, so they didn't know if it was safe. They didn't know if they could trust their kids to go on their own or not. A lot of families are working, so that one or both parents may not even be there. And so really thinking about who is the decision maker in this scenario, I really have to encourage parents to incite, to encourage, to push their children to participate, to allow them to come out, especially for those young kids for whom there may be the safety concern. So if I'm thinking about increasing participation, raising awareness, and getting the right message to my decision makers, the parents, I have to reach out directly to them, and also have to think about who are the community leaders that they speak with, that they trust. That's kind of what I was thinking about looking through this message that you've kind of laid out. Does that make sense on your end?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you hit on something really important around your target audience, is that it's not just the parents, it's also those folks who influence the parents and who are the decision makers. So those are the community leaders. They're the people at the WIC clinics, the local pastors, the kids' teachers. These are all people that your audience will listen to. They're people that the parents talk to, that the parents listen to, and that they respect. So I think it's really important that you also mentioned the community leaders.
So Meredith, this makes sense. I see the goal, the problems, the decision makers. Now I understand who my target audience is. I still need to understand how to put together a message. Help me understand what it means to start to craft a message for this audience.
Yeah, so we can actually move over to that slide. Once you know who you're trying to reach, you have to find out how they like to receive their information. So do they take a bus and are looking at a bus stop every day? Do they listen to a radio and really hear PSAs? Essentially, you're asking yourself how they like to hear information and who do they like to hear that information from. If your audience is mistrustful of mimes, you don't want to send a clown. So you really have to hone in on who that audience will listen to and how they like to receive that message.
That's great. And so once we've, basically what you're saying is after we've identified our priority audience, our target audience, we have to think through the best ways to connect with them. And I know based on our conversations, you said it's important to think about the medium, the messengers, and the values, right? So the medium is, how is this audience receiving information? Not how do we want them to receive information, how do they normally, or what is their preferred way to receive information? Who do they trust? Who can pass along our message for us? Who can speak on our behalf and send, get across the information that we need to pass on? And also, how do we think about what is important to folks? What are their values? What are they concerned about? What are they excited about? What are they interested in? And so thinking about the medium and the messengers and the values, it's really essential, Meredith. I remember you bringing this up, that we're not answering these questions through the lens of our own lens. We're trying to take on the perspective of our target audience. And so sometimes that's something we can do through a thought exercise, but if that's difficult, we can also enlist the help of our partner organizations, folks that work closely with their target audience. Or, if it's appropriate, even asking folks, maybe that participated last summer, what would be most helpful to their peers, what would be most helpful to them this summer. So, wanting to think about that and apply it again to our message, we want to look at the next slide where we have our target audience, which is parents with young children at Green Acres. So the medium, one way that we might hear is that, families trust what they hear in word of mouth, what they're hearing in the community. What are their neighbors saying? What is the property manager saying? Are there community message boards that actually are managed by the housing site that would be considered trusted sources of information? And is there texting or social media venues that we can tap into, either whether it's officially associated with the housing site or through other community service organizations? Which gets us into the messenger piece. You're going to have to tap into friends, neighbors, property managers, And then also organizations that are already providing services. If there are already organizations that are on site from time to time, providing financial services, providing other food assistance or education, working with those folks to push out your message about the availability of meals. And then the safety aspect, letting people know that these programs are being run by trusted partners and that there's the availability not only of meals but also of on-site activities, and speaking to the quality of these things. So really, at this point, we have to think through, we have all of that together, and we're just trying to put it together into a single package that makes sense. So these are the elements of the message, but in that next slide, Meredith, we also have, once we have the different elements of the message, we actually have to create it. So I'm hoping you can help us understand what are the different pieces. Once we've kind of worked through those different elements, how do we craft a single powerful message that will resonate?
Yeah, like you said, once you've gone through all of those steps, you're ready to either create your message or tweak the existing message that you already have. And these are the elements of a most powerful message. They reflect your goal. They're relevant to your target audience. They're delivered to your audience in a way that they trust by people they trust. Those are, the influencers we've talked about. And it includes a clear call to action. What are you asking them to do? Note in here, this doesn't go through the message doesn't go through the long-term benefits of feeding kids in the summer. Parents already know that. It doesn't talk about other programs like breakfast. Your message only speaks to what your audience cares about.
One thing I really like, Meredith, here is that call to action. We're not just trying to get information out. We're trying to get people to take an action that will support the program. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So great. So, again, we want to continue with our example. Let's think of, in our Green Acres housing example, what a specific message could look like and how it could incorporate these different aspects of safety, activities, and meals. And this, if you could just walk us through kind of what we put together here.
Yeah, so here's a great example of a message. And this is the message that you want your audience to hear. Meals are regularly available to children at no charge. Activities are provided on site. And the entire program is operated by trusted partners who can ensure the environment is safe for all kids. Your medium here it could be word of mouth, community message boards, texting or social media. Your messengers are the friends, property managers, organizations already providing the services. Again, those are the people that the decision makers are listening to. Those are the influencers for the parents. And after you get to this point, now you're ready for the fun stuff. This is where we start to talk about tactics. The tactics, that's the specific action that you want to take to push out the message to your target audience. And like I said, this is the fun stuff. Now and only now do you get into the tactics once you have your message crafted. And here are some specific examples of tactics and activities. They could be outreach through partner networks, school or district robocalls, PSAs on the radio, banners, different social media activations, newsletter articles that are really targeted, and op-eds in local media.
One of the things that really strikes me here, and I know you're going to get into it in the next slide, Meredith, is some of these things aren't really recreating the wheel. These aren't completely new tactics. What I really like here is the way you're helping us be more intentional about the tactics that we choose to use.
Exactly. So for every tactic that you consider, you need to ask yourself a couple of questions. Will this reach my audience? Does it help me achieve my goal? And can I actually pull this off? Is it even achievable? So for example, some states in the past have liked to do billboards, but if they're on roads not heavily traveled by people that we're trying to reach, it's probably not the most direct way to reach that audience. Some people like to do big kickoff events, and that can get some attention, but do you have the budget and the capacity to pull that off to get media attention? So you need to be a little bit ruthless as you consider your tactics. If a tactic sounds great, but it's not going to directly reach your specific audience, then shelve it. That's okay. It's much better to have a few really powerful tactics than a long list of ineffective ones. And here's an example tactics list for our Green Acres example. This list isn't exhaustive, and you likely won't use more than just a handful of tactics for any specific outreach effort. But remember, sometimes the best action is to drop a tactic or multiple tactics that don't directly contribute to helping us reach our goals. You might notice on this list that op-eds aren't there. that tactic seems pretty hit or miss for parents of kids. Remember, you want to be taking the most direct route to reach your audience.
And Meredith, looking at this slide that was put together, I even went back and highlighted some of the tactics that seemed the most helpful in outreach to boost participation for our Green Acres site. And looking at that, I was thinking, if the public housing site has a phone bank of folks that live in the community, robocalls to parents with children, doing actually door-to-door canvassing, working either with the property manager or the sponsor or volunteers, putting up yard signs in the property with information about when and where meals are available, putting up flyers on the official community board for the site. If there's a newsletter that goes out to residents every month, putting information about the site, when and where it will be operating, inviting everyone, helping people understand who's eligible for meals, when the program is going to be operating in terms of the dates and the hours, and also asking partner organizations that may also be working at the site to repost information, either where they're physically at the event or on their social media pages. And then in terms of engaging, you've mentioned this as well, if we're doing outreach, to potential participants and to the community advocates, the folks that are working with us on the ground, we also want to make sure we have buy-in from thought leaders. So if there are people the owners of the properties or the regional directors of property sites, we want to make sure they understand what's going on. Using data and stories, we want to help folks that are working in this space that maybe have oversight over the site managers, that they understand what's going on and why it's important so that we have buy-in at the highest levels of leadership. So what you said is exactly that when we are clear about our goal and our message, our target audience, and we have a message, then we can really think about the tactics that make sense. And then at that point, you have to put in a plan to ensure their proper execution in a timely manner, which is, as we're coming up on summer, I think that's on everyone's mind. How do I manage my time? And I know, that's where our TikTok comes in, which I'm hoping you can show with us.
Yeah, exactly. So a TikTok is really just where we put our tactics and activities into a living, organized chart that really helps keep our campaign strategic. And here's a quick example from the Green Acres example that we talked about earlier. In this instance, we're highlighting robocalls to all of the parents and children living on site. But again, the TikTok, this is where everything from the tactics to the audience to the timing, who's in charge of which piece, who needs to sign off or execute, what your budget is. This really gives us a really holistic picture of next steps and keeps everything really strategic. A great TikTok is going to have 5 key parts. It's going to have your tactic, your timeline, your assignments, your budget, and your measurement.
That's great. And just to be clear with everyone, the tactic, Meredith, what is the direct, specific, tangible action that we can take to reach our audience with the message, right? Mm-hmm. And at each step, making sure that it's really going to contribute to our goal. Looking at the timeline, adding a specific date. I know sometimes that's a tough thing to do, but it really keeps us accountable in some way, right? And I know you've mentioned before, if we can bundle tactics to take a number of actions in a small amount of time, that can sometimes have a bigger impact than if they're spread out over a long period. It's interesting how you talk about who's taking the lead, who needs to sign off and execute. And budget, it's not as clear here, but a budget is not just your money, it's also your time, right? So it's this overarching assessment of what's our capacity. And if something is outside of our capacity, Meredith, is that what we should be trying to do if we don't have the capacity for an act?
Exactly. That's the stuff that you need to make those hard decisions. And when you see it listed out, in a TikTok, it's really sometimes very easy to see that it's just not worth your time, and you might need to scrap that tactic.
Or I can also imagine where maybe it's something that would make sense in the future, but when you're planning your program, you have to really be honest with yourself about what your capacity is to execute now.
Yeah. And we also, a lot of times, will leave a space here for status, which you see in this example as well, because it just helps keep everything up to date and holds people accountable. Everybody knows, where you are in the process. So we encourage having that status section too.
And I'm actually thinking as well, we talk about measurement, how that being an important piece. And it's not in this specific TikTok, but, as summer draws to a close, giving some thought to what does success look like and how would we measure both outputs and outcomes. So in this example, I can imagine it being how many calls were made, how many families heard this information through our chosen tactic, and did we see any changes in participation over the summer?
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Wonderful. So thank you so much for presenting this. And, for our audience members, just so you know, we've walked through this relatively quickly, but this is a sneak preview of a brand new resource that's going to be coming out as a follow-up to this webinar that will then be available on our website, which is the Communications Playbook for Summer Meals. So Meredith, really excited about the resource your team's put together. And for those in our audience, I hope you feel that this is going to allow you to really break out some of these strategies, think strategically about this, and break it down to specific actions for which you have capacity to execute, which is really important. So we've seen a lot here in these slides about identifying our goals and target audience and crafting a message that's powerful, leveraging specific tactics and tangible actions to achieve our goal. At this time, we're going to go a step further, and we're going to hear from partners in the field who have been using some of these very same principles to build high-impact outreach campaigns. And for that, I'd like to take time now to introduce Sarah Steele, Program Associate for the No Kid Hungry Virginia campaign. Sarah joined the campaign in fall 2016. As an outreach associate, she is embedded within the Virginia Department of Health and develops engagement strategies and materials. She also liaises with statewide stakeholders in support of First Lady Dorothy McAuliffe's goal of ending childhood hunger in the Commonwealth. Sarah formerly served as a contractor for the United States Marine Corps, where she identified key stakeholders and enhanced coordination between Department of Defense installations and their host communities. She has a lot of experience with summer meals. She actually spent her high school summers helping to run a summer meal site in her Pennsylvania hometown. So Sarah, we're glad you're still working on summer meals, and we're really excited to hear about what's happening down in Virginia and how some of these ideas and these concepts are really being applied in the state, in the Commonwealth.
Thank you so much, Derek. And I just want to promise everyone on the line that Derek and Meredith did not make me say this, but our campaign could not accomplish, all that we want to do, all of our goals, all of our outreach strategies without the framework that was just laid out over the last couple of minutes. Because we're never starting from scratch with one of our outreach strategies to a group of stakeholders or one of our partners, because we are able to rely on this framework, we're able to customize strategies to fit our exact needs and also just accomplish everything that we want to do. So we can go ahead to the next slide. We talked a lot about target audience, so I just want to be really clear about who I have been liaising with over the last 6 months for summer planning. The No Kid Hungry campaign does very little direct outreach with parents and families and children. I think most of our outreach is limited to the promotion of the 877 texting number, at that on-the-ground level. Our work is mainly focused at the state partner strategy level. So I cannot express enough how important it is for us to identify the correct state-level partners and stakeholders in our targeted outreach sectors. So the sectors are things like the libraries, housing communities like Derek's been talking about, our schools and our school nutrition departments, municipal leadership, etc. So these partners and the relationships that we form with them enable us to reach their decision makers. So their librarians across the state who are actually on the ground and in the buildings, or the property managers at the housing communities who are actually there with their residents every day. Because we have this relationship with our state-level partners, we're better able to understand their decision makers' values, concerns, and preferred outreach tactics. And working at this level really ensures our ability to have strong coordinated messaging across the state. And those decision makers in the libraries and in the housing communities and the schools are more likely to buy in on our plans for summer feeding, because this information is coming from their community. It's coming from their leadership and a trusted, familiar source. So let me go into a little bit more depth on one of these. We can flip to the next slide. So our outreach with the library system in Virginia begins at the state level. We can't reach those kids in the libraries unless the librarians and the staff are willing to welcome the summer food program into their buildings and into their own summer programming. So we can't accomplish our goal of increasing access to summer meals unless we have the buy-in of the entire library network.
So our partnership with the Library of Virginia's Children and Youth Services Consultant is absolutely key to our success. She, has been a friend of the campaign for many years, and she understands the target audience, her library systems and branches. She understands their values and, how they prefer to be communicated with. So we know as a campaign why summer meals are important and why libraries are awesome sites for summer meals. We know that they're safe, trusted community locations. We know that they offer built-in enrichment activities. We know that they're comfortable, often air-conditioned spaces for families to spend time together during the summer. And we also know that the library's goals are aligned with ours. We work so hard to make sure kids have the proper nutrition to prevent the summer slide, while the libraries are doing the same thing. Their summer reading program are designed to maintain educational momentum into the next school year. So our goal in working with our state-level library partner is to make sure that this symbiotic relationship is communicated to all of the libraries across the state. We want to make sure that even though this isn't in their normal job description, the summer food program is a really important and really awesome opportunity for them to get involved in. We know that offering a meal during summer reading can attract more visitors to the program. And we know that the enrichment activities at the library can help remove some of the stigma associated with free meals. So that gets us down to that very, very specific, very short message that we communicate to the libraries. To be well read, you must be well fed. All of the effort that you're putting into your summer reading program at your library is lost on a child that's too hungry to take advantage of it. So we, can go forth from here and communicate that across the state. And if we could flip to the next slide, I'll talk about just a few of the ways in which we got that message across. We were really fortunate at the end of last summer to survey all of our libraries right at the end of the year and ask them how they did their program. Did they serve? Did they use existing staff? Did they use volunteers? What did they like about the program? What did they need help with? And that really set our strategy for the whole kind of fall and winter into the spring of recruiting new libraries to participate, because we had that existing data and existing perspective to work off of. We learned that they really understood the benefit of the program, but maybe they needed more help with social media and marketing their program, that they just didn't have enough time in their day to be tweeting or posting about the program on their Facebook page. So we went ahead and developed a library media toolkit for them, where we actually developed pre-messaging that they can just pull throughout the summer and post. We created Facebook cover photos for them. We gave them all the resources that Share Our Strength has, all those publicity materials, so they can just go ahead, pull out this toolkit, and draw directly from there as the summer goes along. And then that resource was really helpful to show to libraries who were thinking about getting involved, because we can say, hey, we have your back. We heard from your peers who love this program, and we're here to support you. So it just really helps the campaign be a true partner that we try to be. If we want to flip to the next slide, I'll give you one more example of our relationship with our city and county governments. So we know, again, as a campaign, that these municipal leaders are invaluable partners for expanding access to summer meals, because they're in tune with their home communities. They know where their kids work, live, and play in the summer. We know that they already have established public platforms to get the word out on. And we know that they have a unifying ability to convene the important stakeholders in their locality. And we know that when they talk, people listen. So how did we get them to listen to us about the importance of summer meals? Well, we knew maybe we had to bring in, some of the aspects of their job that are really important to them. They invest their time and their leadership and the city's finances into making sure that during the school year, their kids have every opportunity to succeed on their tests and, in their athletic programs. And we wanted to make it clear to them that that shouldn't stop in the summertime. So, our message, again, trickled down to this very simple message: Virginia's children are Virginia's future. Summer should be a time for them to recharge, not regress. and we can't allow summer hunger to threaten the investment that these municipal leaders make in their kids, throughout the entire school year. So flipping to the next slide, just a few examples of how we communicated that message. We knew we had to pull in some of our big hitters, our big stars in the state. So of course we turned to the First Lady to host a conference call, and she did so with the mayor of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, who we had heard through the campaign was doing a really amazing job with her summer program. And we also know that our municipal leaders want to be the best of the best. So we were hoping, by showing another example from another state, it might encourage them to, think about some ways in which their municipality could really champion the summer meals program in the same way. We also developed a summer food service program toolkit for them, much like the libraries, but focused differently. This contains things like how to do a radio PSA or ways in which to, visit sites and host events and attract attention to the programs that are already going on, and even a proclamation for this locality to release from the leader's office on the importance of summer meals and why it's important to the community to really address summer hunger. So flipping to the last slide, those are just two quick examples, and we have many more for our other partners, our school divisions and our housing communities. But I think these 5 bullets are some of the biggest things that I've been thinking about over the last couple of months, just in reflecting on our success and struggles with our outreach. I think the first 2 we do pretty well in Virginia. I'm proud of them. I think that we're good about thinking about what's important to our partners and how we can work with them to find shared goals and shared opportunities. And the bottom 3 are things that I am always trying to get better at. Because we have such strong relationships with our partners, they're often ready to run on their own and hop right into their own outreach without us needing to be there every step of the way. And if you craft a strong strategy with targeted messaging and those tactics that we were talking about with the prescribed TikTok, that's okay. Like, those partners can become No Kid Hungry Virginia team members in and of themselves, because we've given them the tools to go forth to their decision makers and their communities and spread the word about the program. It's hard to relinquish control sometimes, but if you do a good job with setting up your engagement strategy in the beginning, you're going to have more free time to extend your reach even further, because you have all these other people equipped with the tools they need. By the same token, make sure that your branding and marketing are reliable and familiar across all of these different sectors. No matter, maybe your message is different, but your promotional material should still look the same. Make sure it's a cohesive unit so that folks can recognize the program no matter how they're engaging with it. And never forget to engage with kids before they're out for the summer. Sounds like a no-brainer, but when you spend 6 months, with your head down and, thinking about engagement strategies, all of a sudden you look up and it's June and everybody's gone and you've missed an opportunity. So I would just remind you to take advantage of these last couple weeks of the school year and really, plug in with the families and the kids while they're still there. And with that, I will turn it back over to Derek. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and I really appreciate your, through the 2 examples that you mentioned of working with libraries and municipal governments, of really tapping into and marketing programs and marketing summer meals to decision makers who are then able to drive change within their existing networks, either by bringing additional folks into the program to operate or to just amplify those outreach efforts. So that's a really great point. And here on this, I see at the bottom of your slide there on considerations about reaching kids and families before school ends, would really just emphasize the importance of seeking out school districts and school leadership and teachers and principals as partners and getting the word out. There actually is that those are some of the most trusted people in the community through whom you can get this word out, whether it's flyers and backpacks, robocalls. Again, I don't want to get into the tactics. I don't want to choose people's tactics for them, Meredith. But just I would emphasize, again, as Sarah mentioned, that engaging schools is a really common
but you're not on yet.
Hello, this is Derek Lambert with Share Our Strength. We're trying to resolve an ongoing technical issue. We hope to have restored audio for the webinar. Please let us know if you can hear us. Okay, it's looking like folks can. Wonderful. Want to just thank all of you for your dedication to the cause and for staying with us through that problem. We are really not sure what happened, but given this that we're short on time, we're not going to dwell on that. We're going to move forward. So again, just want to let folks know that we will be having about 5 minutes per question still. So please go ahead and submit your questions if you have any. And Meredith, I am hoping you can walk us through some of these great new resources your team's put together for us this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Derek. So we, as we've talked about before, we have a 2017 Summer Meals Strategic Communications Playbook coming your way later this week as follow-up to this webinar today. The playbook will include the 3 phases of a strategic plan, like we outlined today, customizable resources, and also blank spaces in the document for you to fill out your own communication strategies as they come together. The playbook will also be available on the Center for Best Practices Summer Meals landing page. And I wanted to take some time to highlight some of the materials that will be included in the playbook. One are these really great assets that were created for Summer Meals outreach. These are some examples here on your screen, which include flyers, postcards, posters, business cards, yard signs, hand signs, banners, bookmarks, you name it. A couple things about these materials: they are all free for download. They are customizable. They come in English and Spanish, and they also include the hotline information for the texting, which is the food or comida to 877-877. Speaking of the texting hotline, I wanted to outline a little bit more about that and our upcoming Summer Action Day. So the texting hotline will, beginning in late May, will be active, and children and families can text food or comida to 877-877 to get information about when and where free summer meals will be served in their community. You can help us spread that information about the hotline, so please share that far and wide. And in addition to making the hotline part of your general summer meals outreach, it's another great way to get the word out about the texting service is to take part in that Summer Action Day, which will take place on Thursday, July 13th. What is Summer Action Day? It is a day of action to raise awareness about childhood hunger in the summertime and to provide resources to the families and kids who struggle with summer hunger. Again, it is on July 13th, and more information about how you can get involved will be coming your way soon. In the past, partners have participated in our Summer Action Day in a couple of ways. They signed up to help us through a coordinated day of activation on social media. They've shared sample messaging on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and have also encouraged their network to do so. And they've also organized a canvassing day to pass out resources and information about summer meals. So a couple different ways that you can get involved, and we hope that you will take part. So from my end, here are some of the next steps. Again, the playbook will be coming out later this week, and my team is here to help you one-on-one to walk through the playbook when it becomes available. If you have questions, we're happy to brainstorm tactics and to share new tactics with you. You can reach us through Derek. Second, we hope that you will use the playbook when you get it and when it becomes available, and that you customize the assets. So again, that work, the burden on your work is lifted a little bit. We don't want people to be recreating anything or doing anything from scratch. And finally, we hope that you will share your success and your strategies and tactics back with us so that we can use that information moving forward next year and to share with our partners to showcase your great work and to help others. So please feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you so much, Meredith. And so we've really gone through a lot today. We've looked at the importance of marketing, key steps to develop a strategy. We've looked at a marketing case study in Virginia and additional resources to support marketing and outreach. And again, as promised, we want to get into some questions that folks can, add into the chat box. And we actually had a question come up. And Meredith, I think this is maybe for you, based on the playbook. Someone was asking this, I'm not sure I have time for all of this planning. Like, we already have a lot of work to do in the run up to summer, and we don't have unlimited staff. We're limited. We're kind of stretched thin. How is this resource going to save us time? And so I'm hoping you can help, somebody out there that's thinking this is a great resource, but how is it going to help us do this kind of effort? We know it has to happen, but is this going to really make it more efficient?
Yeah, sure. So my quick answer to that is that it will actually save you time in the long run by sitting down and thinking about, what tactics that you're going to take and what your goal, your audience. It's going to ensure that, again, your tactics are not driving your strategy, which in the end is going to save you a lot of time. And it's going to enable you to reach your audience more efficiently and effectively. As I mentioned, when the playbook becomes available, you will also have a couple of blank pages where you can actually walk through your strategy yourself. And so hopefully that will be an easy resource to use, and that you can just kind of plug in your thoughts. But my quick answer to that is that coming up with a communication strategy will actually save you time in the long run, and will make sure that you're reaching your audience.
Thanks so much, Meredith. We also received a question: who typically are the strongest community partners who can support outreach efforts? Thinking about, local leaders, folks of decision makers. I just quickly thinking about folks that we work with. Schools are really the foundation of getting the word out to families, that they're trusted. They're, children are in school. That's a trusted source of information. As Sarah mentioned, libraries, public housing managers, property managers, healthcare facilities. Also, elected leaders can also really drive the conversation in their communities, as we heard from Sarah as well. And then also, again, we want to remind people that the program participants themselves, word of mouth is a really powerful way of getting the word out. So program participants can also be considered real partners. So that's all the time we have for questions. Sorry, folks, for the delay with the technical difficulty. Thank you again for your patience. But want to, again, just wrap up from today and say that, we have a lot of resources that are going to be coming your way no later than Thursday, including the new playbook that we're really excited to share. And as we close, I want to give a shout out for our final installment of the Summer Meals webinar series, where we're actually going to start to think about year-round meals in making the connection between summer and after school. Mark your calendars. Next month on Tuesday, June 20th at 2 p.m., we're going to talk about opportunities to streamline between SFSP and CACFP, and we're going to hear some great examples of folks from the school-based community and the community-based sponsors that are operating both programs successfully in their areas. So please join us again next month. And in the meantime, please don't hesitate to visit our website, use our resources, and let us know if you have any questions at bestpractices@strength.org. On behalf of Sarah and Meredith and the rest of our team, I want to say thank you for your time, thank you for your patience, and we look forward to hope you'll tune in for next month's webinar on June 20th. Have a great day.